People aren't just visiting South Carolina anymore. They're packing up and staying. In the last few years, this state has quietly become one of the fastest growing places to live in the entire country, and most people have no idea which cities and areas are actually absorbing all of that growth. So in this video, I'm going to break down 10 of the most popular cities and areas people are relocating to in South Carolina right now, from the beaches, to the lakes, to the mountains, to the big cities in between. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which part of this state actually fits your lifestyle. But before we get into the list, you need to understand one thing about South Carolina. This state is split into 4 very different regions, and each one comes with its own trade-offs. You've got the coast, which most people think of first, but that also means hurricanes, heat, and humidity. You've got the Midlands, right in the center of the state. You've got the upstate, which actually touches the Blue Ridge Mountains and gets real winters. And you've got the PD region up near the North Carolina border, home to the Grand Strand and Myrtle Beach. If you want to be near the ocean, you're looking at the Low Country or the PD. If you want mountains and seasons, you're looking at the upstate. If you want to be centrally located near everything, that's the Midlands. Keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this list, because where you land is going to depend entirely on which of these trade-offs you're willing to live with. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, Charleston. We have to start here, because Charleston is the city most people picture when they think of South Carolina. And for good reason. This is one of the most historic cities in the entire country. We're talking about antebellum homes built in the 1700 and 1800, the cobblestone streets, and a downtown that's often called a living museum. In fact, there's a rule here that no building can be taller than the tallest church steeple downtown, so you're not going to see a single skyscraper in the historic district. That's part of what keeps it so well preserved. Charleston sits in what's known as the Tri-County area, which includes Charleston County, Berkeley County, and Dorchester County. Charleston County itself has some of the most expensive real estate in the entire state. But if you head out to cities like Somerville, Hanahan, or Goose Creek in the surrounding counties, you'll find much more affordable options while still being close to everything. This area is also loaded with education and healthcare. You've got the Citadel Military College, the Medical University of South Carolina, and the College of Charleston, which was established all the way back in 1770, making it one of the oldest colleges in the country. And then there's the water, Charleston Harbor, where the first shots of the Civil War were fired at Fort Sumter, the Atlantic Ocean, and countless rivers and tidal creeks perfect for fishing and crabbing. You're never more than about 20 minutes from a beach here, no matter where in the metro area you're living. Now, here's the trade-off. Charleston sits in what's called the Low Country, which means it's flat, low-lying land, a lot of it barely above sea level. That means flooding is a real concern, and hurricanes are part of life here. I've lived in Charleston for over 5 years, and my first 2 years here, we had a hurricane evacuation both years. Neither storm hit us directly, but we were in what they call the cone of uncertainty, so out of caution, we evacuated anyway. The last several years, we haven't had to evacuate at all, but it's something you need to be mentally prepared for if you move here. Summers are also brutal. Heat and humidity that will hit you like a wall the moment you step outside. But winters here are incredible. You can golf in January. You can go to the beach in February. If you can handle 2 rough months of summer in exchange for 10 months of near-perfect weather, Charleston is hard to beat. Number 2, Mount Pleasant. Just across the bridge from downtown Charleston, Mount Pleasant gives you beach access, boat life, and top-rated schools, all without living directly in the historic district. It's become one of the most sought-after suburbs on the entire East Coast, which means the secret is very much out, and prices here have climbed fast. Still, if you want that Charleston lifestyle with a little more space and a little less tourist traffic, this is usually the first place people look. Number 3, Somerville. This is where a lot of Charleston area families end up once they want more house for their money. Somerville has its own historic charm. It's actually nicknamed Flower Town for its azaleas, and it's still under an hour from the beach, but the cost of living drops noticeably once you cross out of Charleston County. It's become one of the fastest growing towns in the entire Tri-County area for exactly that reason. Number 4, Greenville. Now let's head to the complete opposite side of the state. Greenville sits in the upstate region, right near the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it could not feel more different from Charleston. Downtown Greenville is charming and walkable, and right in the middle of it is Falls Park on the Reedy, a 32-acre green space with a waterfall running right through downtown, and a 345-foot pedestrian bridge called the Liberty Bridge that's become one of the most photographed spots in the state. Greenville also has serious college power nearby. Furman University and Bob Jones University are right in town, and Clemson University is about 40 minutes away. And if you know anything about college football, you know Clemson has been one of the best programs in the entire country over the last decade, with multiple national championships. If you live in Greenville, you're going to be about 3 hours from the ocean, so this is not a beach lifestyle, but you'll be minutes from the mountains. Paris Mountain State Park is right in town, and Table Rock State Park is about 40 minutes away. There are also several lakes nearby for boating, including Lake Hartwell, Lake Keowee, and Lake Robinson. Because Greenville is so far inland, it barely feels hurricanes. Storms weaken fast once they move off the coast. You also get real winters here, actual seasonal changes, and colder temperatures than anywhere on the coast. And Greenville is centrally located to a surprising number of major cities. You're within about 2.5 hours of Atlanta, Charlotte, Asheville, Columbia, and Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters. For a lot of people relocating from up north, Greenville hits a sweet spot. Real seasons, mountain access, and still a short drive to several major metro areas. Number 5. Myrtle Beach, back to the coast, this time up in the PD region. Myrtle Beach is the most tourist-heavy pick on this entire list, and it comes with a lot of energy because of that. You've got a 1.25-mile oceanfront boardwalk, dozens of golf courses, one of the tallest Ferris wheels in the country, and an amusement park right on the water. Myrtle Beach is actually part of a 60-mile stretch of coastline called the Grand Strand, which also includes North Myrtle Beach, Morell's Inlet, Georgetown, and Pawleys Island. If you want the outdoors, the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge sits right nearby, covering nearly 27,000 acres of trails, rivers, and swampland. There's also Coastal Carolina University in the area, if education is a factor for you. But here's the honest trade-off. Myrtle Beach pulls in millions of tourists every single year. If you want a quiet beach life, this might not be your spot. But if you want energy, entertainment, and a beach town that never sleeps, this is exactly why people are moving here in huge numbers. Number 6. Hilton Head Island. On the opposite end of the coast, down near the Georgia border, Hilton Head is the calmer, more upscale alternative to Myrtle Beach. Gated communities, quiet public beaches, world-class golf. This is where people move when they're done chasing the tourist crowds and just want the ocean to themselves. It's a slower pace of life, and it comes at a higher price point, but for retirees and remote workers alike, it's one of the most desirable stretches of coastline in the entire state. Number 7. Rock Hill. Rock Hill sits up in the northern part of the Midlands, right on the North Carolina border. In fact, it's only about a 30-minute drive to Charlotte, which is home to the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, and a skyline full of skyscrapers. That means you get South Carolina's lower cost of living and lower taxes, while still having easy access to a major city's job market, airport, and entertainment. Rock Hill itself is a charming college town, home to Winthrop University and a campus of the University of South Carolina. Carowinds Amusement Park is right nearby if you've got a family. And if you're in the area around the holidays, it's worth driving over to McCadenville, just across the border in North Carolina. They call it Christmas Town, USA, and it's become a tradition for a lot of local families. Rock Hill also sits near Lake Wylie, a 12,000-acre lake with over 300 miles of shoreline. You won't be near the ocean here, but you're not far from the mountains either, and that Charlotte proximity is exactly why this area has been exploding in growth. Number 8. Columbia. Right in the dead center of the state sits Columbia, South Carolina's capital. Columbia has one of the largest downtown skylines in the state, and its location might be its biggest selling point. You're within about 2 hours of the mountains, the beaches, Charlotte, Greenville, and Augusta, Georgia. It's genuinely one of the most centrally located cities in the entire Southeast. Columbia is home to the University of South Carolina and the Gamecocks, and if you spend any time in this state, you'll quickly learn that most people here are either die-hard Gamecock fans or die-hard Clemson Tiger fans, and when those two teams play each other, it practically shuts down the state. There's a lot to do here too. The Riverbanks Zoo and Garden, the South Carolina State Museum, Congaree National Park, and the State House itself. Columbia also has a heavy Civil War history. Late in the war, Union General William Sherman marched his army through the Carolinas, following a scorched earth policy, and a huge portion of Columbia's historic buildings were burned to the ground. Some antebellum homes did survive, and a lot of the city has since been rebuilt, but it's a very different historic feel than what you'll find in Charleston. Columbia also sits right next to Lake Murray, a 50,000-acre lake with over 650 miles of shoreline, which brings us to our next stop. Number 9. Lake Murray, Chapin. If you want waterfront living without giving up access to a city, this is the move. Chapin and the surrounding Lake Murray communities put you 15 to 20 minutes from downtown Columbia, but the second you get home, you're looking at open water. It's become a favorite for people who want a slower pace during the week, but don't want to sacrifice a short commute. South Carolina actually has a lot of lake living options beyond Lake Murray. Near Charleston, you've got Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie. Lake Marion is the largest lake in the state, surrounded by small towns and full of campgrounds, and you're usually about 50 to 90 minutes from downtown Charleston depending on where you land. Near Rock Hill, there's Lake Wiley. And down near the Georgia border, you've got Clark Hill Lake, also known as Thurman Lake, and Lake Hartwell near Anderson, close to Greenville. Fair warning if lake life is calling your name. Alligators are common in South Carolina's lakes and ponds. Attacks are extremely rare, but they are absolutely part of the scenery. Number 10. Beaufort and Port Royal. Down in the Low Country, south of Charleston, Beaufort and Port Royal offer that same historic, moss-draped charm without Charleston's crowds or price tag. It's quieter, it's slower, and it's become a favorite for people who want the low country lifestyle without the tourist traffic. If you love the idea of camping right near the beach, Hunting Island State Park is nearby and lets you bring an RV and set up practically on the sand. One of the few spots in the state where you can do that. So here's the real question after everything we just covered. Which one of these actually fits your life? If you want history, culture, and a beach 20 minutes away, Charleston. If you want mountains, seasons, and a college football obsession, Greenville. If you want a lake in your backyard and a short drive to the capital, Chapin. If you want energy and boardwalks, Myrtle Beach. If you want quiet and upscale, Hilton Head. Every single one of these places trades something for something else. Beach access for hurricane risk. Mountain views for a 3-hour drive to the ocean. Big city energy for a longer commute. Small town quiet for fewer job opportunities. There's no perfect answer here. There's only the answer that's right for how you actually want to live. And that's really the story behind South Carolina's growth right now. It's not one city pulling everyone in. It's 10 completely different lifestyles, all packed into one state, and people all over the country are finally starting to figure that out. If you're thinking about making the move yourself, let me know in the comments which one of these 10 made your list. And if you found this helpful, subscribe, because I'll be covering more of these areas, including a full breakdown of every beach town in South Carolina, very soon.